Hello, everyone. I am Susan Neal. I'm delighted to be here. This is session 2 of Lose Your Pandemic Pounds from the Facebook group 7 Steps to Get Off Sugar, Carbs, and Gluten. And anyone is welcome to join this group. If you happen to be watching this video and it's not in that Facebook group, feel free to go ahead and join that group. Again, it's called 7 Steps to Get Off Sugar, Carbs, and Gluten. So if you haven't watched session 1, I recommend that you do that as well. That one was more thorough than this one. This is going to be shorter. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. And at the end of this session, I will go ahead and read out the question and answer it for you. Now, last week we talked about taking step 1 because there's 7 steps. So with step 1, it was to decide. So congratulations for deciding to improve your health and decrease your weight. Yes, we need to lose those pandemic pounds. So this is really going to help. I had a friend of mine do this last month and he lost over 20 pounds. And that is what you can expect from improving your diet by eating God's foods and not the food manufacturers. So in this book, 7 steps to get, I always get this backwards, 7 steps to get off sugar and carbs, sugar and carbohydrates. At the end of each, I'm a very organized person, very organized, very structured. So at the end of each chapter, I give you the steps that you should have taken in this chapter. So we're going to look at step 1 from last week. If you haven't already watched the TED Ed video, How Does Sugar Affect Your Brain by the neuroscientist Nicole Avena, then go ahead and do that because that is one of the things that you're supposed to do, and you'll be surprised at what you find. Number 2, check labels to make sure you don't consume sugary foods with greater than 10 grams of sugar per serving. Now, the American Heart Association recommends limiting sugar to 24 grams for women per day and 36 grams for men per day. So I've already posted that in our Facebook group. 3 was to write and sign a contract in here between you and God, asking Him to help you to make these lifestyle changes. Because you know what? It's really tough to do this. And without God's help, it would be such a struggle. So I'm going to demonstrate methods for you to use God's tools to make things easier. And the last thing was to complete your assessments. So that's what you should have finished up with from last week. This week is step 2. And step 2 is to gain knowledge and a support system. Let's first talk about knowledge. You are going to gain more knowledge than you want to hear from this book. This chapter 2, step 2, is incredible, and you are going to find out about foods that you had no idea that they were bad for you. So go ahead and read. Now, the second part is a support system. So, in the Bible it says, 2 are better than 1, and so I suggest getting a prayer accountability partner. And from the last session, someone suggested that we go ahead and I post that in the Facebook group, and I did. And I've had dozens of people who have now become each other's accountability partner. So if you need an accountability prayer partner, go ahead, find that post, and sign up for it, and we'll match you with the person either above or below you. Another tool to use of God's mighty weapons is his sword of the Spirit. So I recommend choosing a Bible verse that will be your go-to when you are tempted. For me, it was, don't drink too much wine, for many evils lie along that path. Be filled instead with the Holy Spirit and controlled by him. If you wanted to use that instead of wine, you could say chocolate, whatever, chips, whatever it is that you're desiring. So get your Bible verse. And I thought I had an index card here, but I put mine on an index card so that it's readily available. And I put it in the bathroom initially to help me begin to memorize it. And I recommend posting it on your refrigerator and on your pantry. And whenever you are tempted, you're about to open those doors, speak the Bible verse out loud with authority, and you will be surprised at the effects of the dissipation of the desire. Yes, God's mighty weapon of the sword of the Spirit works. Now, to help you choose a Bible verse, I do have Appendix 1 in the 7 Steps to Get Off Sugar and Carbohydrates, has loads of Bible verses. And the first ones start with addiction. So I have several pages about addiction. And then towards the end, we have about stress and temptation. So here are some Bible verses that you could go through to potentially choose. Now, people always ask me about sugar substitutes because we no longer want to use sugar, okay? Nope, sugar is a bad guy, so get rid of this guy. So I'm going to show you my sugar substitutes. So I'll start with baking. You could use coconut sugar. That's perfectly fine. Here is a monk fruit sweetener, and with the monk fruit sweetener, it always has the erythritol in it, and nothing is perfect. This is really low on the glycemic index. It tastes very much like sugar. Go ahead and use this. This is good. And then what I'm currently using is called Stevia Select. And this little guy, he has like a little micro teaspoon. And I mean, this little teaspoon is powerful. And the only ingredient in this is organic stevia. And I have a products list, and I posted it earlier this summer, so I'll go ahead and post it in the group too, to have a handout of a products list that I recommend of different products. Now, what I really enjoy in my tea is this Better Stevia, and it has little packets. And so with these little packets, I use about a half of one. And I take these with me in my purse. And then when I'm ever, drinking, if you drink coffee, I drink tea, I only need like a half of one of these. So, and with this, the Better Stevia, I like that because one of the ingredients is organic inulin and certified organic stevia leaf extract. Well, guess what inulin is? Inulin is a prebiotic. And you say, what's a prebiotic? A prebiotic is the food that probiotics eat. So what I do is I have this in the morning with my tea and my probiotic, because then I'm giving food to my probiotic through my prebiotic in Better Stevia. Oh, okay. Here's some Sweet Drops Stevia. I've used these for years, and it's a liquid drops. I used to do like 7 drops in my tea. Now we're moving up on the glycemic index. So started stevia is the lowest, and now we're moving up. Well, the highest thing, I'll start with the highest one, is this is organic maple syrup, and my daughters love this. So you could use maple syrup, and this is highest on the glycemic index of what I've shown you so far. And then this is honey. So you could buy some local honey. And you know, this is God's foods. The maple syrup and the honey are God's foods. And in my book, I have a page about all these different, yep, you got it. All these different sugar substitutes. And you start out with the lowest one and you move up to the highest. And you see there honey and maple syrup are the highest. The lowest ones are stevia, monk fruit sweetener, agave, coconut sugar, and then the last 2 are honey and maple syrup. And that is in step 4. So let's see where we are. Now I'm going to move on to the 5 worst foods. Okay, I don't know if many of you know this, but in the United States, we have what's called Roundup Ready crops. For Roundup Ready crops, they have taken seeds from different foods, different vegetables. They've taken those seeds and they have made them, they genetically modified them to where the plant, let's say it's a corn plant, so that the corn plant is no longer harmed by Roundup, the pesticide. And in 2016, we found out that the active ingredient in Roundup, glyphosate, is a carcinogen. So what do you think happens? Okay, so these crops, they aren't harmed by the glyphosate, and so farmers can spray the Roundup on them, and it doesn't harm the plant, doesn't harm the food, and then they send the food off and it's processed and created into different things in the grocery store. And guess what? They have the residue of glyphosate, the carcinogen. Okay? Now let me tell you the 5 worst foods that have this, that are 90%, like 85 to 90% of these crops are genetically modified Roundup Ready crops. Wheat, and this is in my book in step 2. Wheat, corn, oats, soy, and sugar beets. Okay, wheat, oats, soy, corn, and beets. If you're going to purchase any of those crops, please purchase organic, or make sure that it says, see, can you read this right here? It says that it is non-GMO. Okay, so it's non-GMO, it's verified. Okay, because those crops, like I said, 85 to 90% are genetically modified. Now, an independent organization out of Washington, D.C. in the fall of 2018 did a study and tested a whole bunch of different oat products, okay? Oats, like oatmeal. And they found all of the oat products had some of the glyphosate in the food. You get the residue, it's sprayed on there, you get the residue. I mean, Roundup will keep the weeds from going all over the crops, and that's really helpful, but it's harmful to the human body. And what is really serious is that all, like wheat and all the oat products, so many of them are marketed to our children, and I fed it to my children, and they have really small bodies, and so just think of the carcinogen, and they're with their lower body weight and everything, that's really harmful. So we need to be really careful about what we give our family. So corn, wheat, soy, oats, and beets. Make sure it says non-GMO or else it's organic. Organic means it is not genetically modified. Okay, now we're going to move on to a couple of tips, and one is don't starve yourself. Okay, have delicious vegetables, 1 fruit a day, meat, more vegetables, another salad, nuts, seeds. Try out different vegetables. There's 100 different vegetables. Try out different fruits. One summer, every single week at the grocery store, we would get a new fruit, like a star fruit and a new vegetable. That was just something fun to do with me and my kids. So try something like that. Have your child or grandchild, hey, you pick the different kind of fruit this week. And then another tip is, if you stumble and you eat a lot one day of the wrong type of foods, don't worry about it. God makes the sunrise every morning. Every morning it's new. And so you can start a new day the next day. It's perfectly fine. We all stumble. We get up, brush yourself off, and the next day start anew. And probably the next day you won't feel as good and you'll be more motivated. Yes. So, I wanted to go over the handout. The handout for this week, Lose Your Pandemic Pounds, week 2 handout. And what you're supposed to do is read chapter 2 or step 2 in, if I can get this straight, 7 steps to get off sugar and carbohydrates. And then we're supposed to read in the Christian Study Guide, supposed to read session 2, day 1 through 5 of the Christian Study Guide for 7 steps to get off sugar and carbohydrates. And the last one is in the Healthy Living Journal, track your water intake, steps, fitness, and do weeks 2. So you're going to complete day 8 through 14. And all 3 of these books are included in Healthy Living Series, 3 books in 1. And when you buy this one, you get 3 books for the price of 2. Now we're going to move on to questions, but before we do, I just want to tell you that this program works. Last month, it was my birthday, and I turned 59. Yes, 59. So eating God's foods, all His vegetables and fruits, gives you so many vitamins and nutrients, and I don't color my hair either. So, let's move on to questions. Let's see if I can find the questions. I don't see any questions. So may God bless y'all, and may you improve your health and meet your goals. And remember to eat God's foods and use God's tools. Bye-bye.